just a fool's errand.
Musicians tend to be that way.
It has its pros and cons. But it's times like this when I'm like out of my element because I like to be prepared. That's why I never could do jazz because I was doing. No, I just learned how to make a good sound on this thing.
You are things in your way we can.
No, that.
You can come closer to me if you want.
Oh, either way. I noticed that the rug was under made a wave.
No, one other symptom that I'm not a true musician is that I'm not.
I just want to say, I'm really excited about this is going to be great. I think we're ready.
Oh, you ready? Next thing.
So she's going to start with a family.
Breaking out the circle, we're not doing anything on that.
No.
Okay. Okay, I think we should. So, the 160.
Works that
We
way.
go one step.
We're gonna do the first one 2 times. So she wants to, Eleanor wants to have us sing once through so everybody can hear it, and then we'll do 1,
And then
2,
she
3
invites
with
that.
it.
Oh, okay. So in other words,
Makes
just you
sense.
guys one time and then.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
Thank you.
to Mount Vernon Unitarian Church. I'm the Reverend Eleanor Piez, and I serve you as an affiliated community minister, which means most of my work is out in the community. I serve as a healthcare chaplain, and I spend a lot of time at bedsides. So it is a wonderful opportunity and honor for me to be with you today. So I want to remind everyone, and please continue coming in, whether you are here in the room or whether you are online, doing pajama church, as some people call it. I am really glad that you came, that you're joining in this morning. And I hope this will be a time for pausing, a time to remember the beauty of being who we truly are. We are seekers of love and justice and peace. In this congregation, no matter who you are, where you came from, or how you got here, you are welcome in your entire wholeness. You do not have to leave any part of you at the door. And now, to welcome you further and let you know what's going on, because we have a lot of things going on, Phyllis Gilmore, our worship associate, has the announcements to share.
Good morning, everybody. I have 4 big announcements. The first one is about Ventures in Communities Hypothermia Outreach Program, also known as VIC-HOP. It's a temporary overnight shelter operated by Fairfax County staff and supported by volunteer, faith, and nonprofit organizations during the winter. For years, MVUC has enthusiastically supported this program as it addresses many of our core principles of caring, respect, sharing, and building community support. On Thursday nights in December, January, and March, MVUC is being asked to provide a warm dinner for 30, serve the meal, and clean up. In addition, we are being asked to provide 24 nutritious breakfast bags. Please sign up for making meals, serving meals, or providing breakfast bags using the Sign Up Genius link that was provided in the This Week at MVUC newsletter, or on the sign-up sheet in the Commons. And if you have any questions, please contact Barbara Jacobs, Sam Longstreet, or Bonnie Brandt. Second, this wonderful quilt is going to be raffled off at the holiday shop. The tickets are $3 each and can be purchased on MVUC's Realm app, from quilters, or in the Commons after the service. The holiday shop, where the raffle will happen, is on November 18th at 3:30 p.m. You need not be present to win. The third announcement is that we hope you will come to the final session of the climate roller coaster in the chapel this morning after coffee hour. The plan is to home in on an action plan to combat climate change. There will be door prizes. Finally, starting at 11:30 today, there will be trunk or treating in the parking lot and a haunted house in Holland Hall until 1:30 p.m. Now, let us turn our hearts and minds to worship.
Sorry. It's time for the first hymn. And no. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, I had introit in here, and We did that. So let's light the chalice. That's the real start of the service, and I do have opening words, and we'll call that our interlude. Rhea, do you want to play maybe just a little interlude to kind of get us back on track? You can just play the same opening line of the hymn. Yeah. Opening words and chalice lighting. Phyllis, why don't you come on up and stand next to me? The Halloween events and the time of Halloween for me is such a mixed time because we have so much fun, and it's a time for childhood and candy and play, and yet it is for me also a time of contemplation and turning inward and preparing for the long nights that are coming. And I have to share sad news right now with us, with everyone who's part of the MVUC community, which is that our beloved professional caregiver, Farhat Chowdhury, who we called Farhi, she's been traveling, as some of you know, in Saudi Arabia and was in Medina on her religious pilgrimage and was taken ill, and on Friday night she died. And I am really sorry to share that news. I know it's a blow. It will leave a big loss in this community. She was an active part of not only our children's program and helped bring up so many children over more than 22 years of working here, but also participated in a lot of our other activities and helped us build bridges with her Muslim community. And those things will not be forgotten. I hope, will pledge ourselves to keep them going. So there will be more information forthcoming about remembering her, celebrating and mourning her life and her loss. But right now, we feel her spirit shining through all of our fun activities and our more contemplative activities today. So part of why it's more contemplative for me is that I grew up partly outside the United States, where Halloween was not observed the way we do, and people would stay home. Many of our neighbors stayed home and said what seemed to me as a child, solemn prayers, maybe scary prayers, remembering loved ones who had died. And so I've always felt like I sort of had a choice as to how to celebrate. And then later, when I lived in California and the Day of the Dead became a popular observance, that sort of mixed together the fun and the reverence. So right now, as we light our chalice, let's join in the reverent aspect. Phyllis will read the words by Florence Kaplow.
An All Souls chalice lighting. As we kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision, their courage lives on in our commitments, and their love continues to bless the world through us.
And now, please rise in spirit for the opening hymn, number 323. All the hymns are in the gray hymnal today, and youth are invited to be excused and go set up for the Halloween activities.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
Standing as we say the congregational covenant together, and you'll find it in the back of your hymnal or in your order of service. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest for truth is its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life in community, that to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. This is our covenant with each and with all. And now I invite up Kathy McDonald, our lay minister, who will be giving a homily. Come on up.
Five years ago, my daughter and I attended an event at the Kennedy Center. When we were getting off the elevator and entering the underground parking lot, she turned to me and hesitantly said, "Mom, I've been dating someone for 6 months and want to let you know it is a woman." This was when my daughter came out to me as a lesbian. I had observed a change, a transformation in my daughter over the previous year. She is a strong and determined, as well as a sensitive and passionate woman. Her sensitive and compassionate nature had at times manifested itself in anxiety and doubt. I was pleased, relieved to see her confident, outgoing traits become more visible, truly evident in recent months. I could not have imagined that this change was related to an acceptance of her authentic self as a gay person. The hesitancy she showed when sharing this news was not unfounded. It was a topic of conversation that was seldom discussed, mainly because while I didn't condemn homosexuality, I also didn't outwardly affirm my acceptance. I guess I could say I was a closeted ally. My conservative background had expected me to adhere to the belief that the scriptures And by saying the scriptures, I'm using the Christian reference to the Bible. It taught that people who identified as homosexual had chosen a sinful lifestyle. I did not support the mainstream Christian view of homosexuality as a sin. I was reluctant to expose my beliefs publicly, fearing the reactions of family and acquaintances. I would dodge the topic when the fundamentalist company that I was in, not allowing myself the freedom to outwardly profess what my heart believed. I felt distressed over the exclusion and rejection of homosexuals by the Christian community. I was astounded when conservative acquaintances would not listen to or attempt to understand their children when they felt compelled to come out to their parents to share the truth of their sexual orientation. When I witnessed the reaction of these parents choosing to ostracize their children from their families, this was a reaction that I could not accept that a loving parent would make. My daughter later shared with me that she was relieved that I expressed my acceptance and a desire to support her and the decision she had made. She said, "Mom, my greatest fear was that you'd say, 'I accept that this is your lifestyle you have chosen, but will continue to love you no matter what.'" There's a meme I've seen on social media. It shows Jesus sitting above a crowd of followers, holding his hand high in emphasis. The speech bubble above his head reads, "Love everyone, no matter what." One of the followers speaks up and asks Jesus, "Even if they are gay?" Jesus replies, "Yes, even if they ask stupid questions." A first reaction might be a chuckle, but then an exasperated, "Of course. How absurd to consider any other interpretation." But when I read this meme, my thought goes to the phrase, "no matter what." Could the unloved, to which love thy neighbor refers, be saying we love everyone despite what they choose? Or is it requiring complete acceptance of the lifestyle, embracing the full proclamation of the LGBTQ+? As my daughter said, she sought not to be loved despite or no matter her choice. Instead, she disclosed who she truly is. She demands authentic, genuine, true love and acceptance from others. My daughter and her partner share a beautiful love story and profess their love for each other at their wedding. Friends and family gathered to show authentic acceptance, sincere support to validate their love for each other. She and I turned a corner at the same time. She proclaimed her identity and put aside the fear of what others would think. Her display of self-confidence gave me courage to choose truth over fear. Me, I began by placing a rainbow sticker on my car, hanging a garden flag in the front yard with "Love always wins," and joining a social media Free Mom Hugs group on Facebook, even purchasing and wearing the Free Mom Hugs t-shirt. This may not seem like much, but they were big steps for me. 2 stories, 2 women making changes in their lives. My daughter's, a change toward complete acceptance of her true reality, and mine, empowered to acknowledge outwardly what I knew in my heart. The lives we live are made of many moments in time We are so much more than just one moment. We are a culmination of a lifetime of thoughts, experiences, and relationships. These thoughts recall a poem by Emery Hall, 1,000 Different Women. Make peace with all the women you once were. Lay flowers at their feet. Offer them incense and honey and forgiveness. Honor them and give them your silence. Listen, bless them and let them be, for they are the bones of the temple you sit in now. For they are the rivers of wisdom leading you toward the sea. I have been 1,000 different women. I am so thankful for the rivers that led my daughter to her sea and that she led me along with her.
Thank you, Kathy. Our next hymn is number 179, You May Remain Seated. It's new, probably to most of us, if not all of us, and it's about forgiveness. So don't worry if you don't sing it perfectly, you're already forgiven. Join in with your whole heart, and we will also play it through one time so you can get the feel before we join in singing. And then when it's time to sing, Steve, you'll give the signal, right?
We'll sing it one through. So.
Words that we hold tight won't let us go. Paths we don't follow will haunt us so. What will undo us is not our friend. Show us, O Spirit, how to befriend. Show us how to forgive to all who live. Show us forgiveness that we may live. To speak of loving is not to love. Lies move among us, below, above. When we are raging, needing to mend, show us, O Spirit, how to befriend. Show us how to forgive to all who live. Show us forgiveness that we may live. When love is doubtful, choice is not clear, we turn to worship to cast out fear. Teach us forgiveness, make love our end. Show us, O Spirit, how to befriend. Show us how to forgive to all who live. Show us forgiveness that we may live. All right.
And now, Phyllis, if you'd come back up to announce the offering.
If I don't drop everything on the way. We come now to the morning offering. At this time, MVUC asks each of us to show our spiritual and material generosity. I give because community is important to me, and this is my community. Each week, we share the plate with a charitable organization that you, our members, have chosen. This week's offering is shared with Frog Pond Early Learning Center. Frog Pond is a one-of-a-kind nature program located next to Huntley Meadows Park. It is inclusive and uses a nature-based, science-rich curriculum to teach and nurture children, families, and the world. The focus is on creating socially and emotionally intelligent learning environments, character development, outdoor play, and learning about nature in a holistic, nurturing, and stimulating environment. I invite you to contribute whatever you are most comfortable with to Frog Pond and to this church community. If you would like to write a check for the offering, please make it to MVUC and, in the memo line, indicate what it is for. If you wish your contribution to go 50-50 to both Frog Pond and MVUC, just write share. You can also go to our website or Realm to give directly. We are grateful for your donation. During the offering, you are welcome to come forward in silence to light a candle of joy or sorrow. And now, will the ushers please come forward?
A time for meditation and prayer. Let's begin with just a couple moments of silence. Breathe comfortably. Let the spirit of being connected within ourselves, among ourselves, and beyond ourselves Let that Spirit enfold all of us. Holy Spirit of life and love, I ask blessings on all who are gathered here, all in this room, all joining online, all who wanted to be here, couldn't make it, all those we love, and all who love us, all whose lives have passed before us into the mystery, but whose memories are inside us, blessing us now. We especially send love and comfort to the family and the loved ones of our extra special Fari. We give thanks for one another in ever-widening circles. Now I also invite you to pray with me and for me. Support me as I prepare to give the sermon. These are some of the words of Psalm 139. Spirit of life, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down, when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. Even before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely. Even when darkness covers me, you are with me. Darkness is as light to you. Search me and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Amen. So may it be. And now I'd like to invite up our quartet for another psalm.
We have a special guest, Linda Davidson. Linda Doyle is not well today, so the program is not quite right. This is the other Linda. All right. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all I need. She makes me lie down in green meadows. Beside the still waters she will lead. She restores my soul. She rights my wrongs. She leads me in the path of good things. She fills my heart with songs. Even though I walk through a dark and dreary land, there is nothing that can shake me. She has said she won't forsake me. I'm in her hand. She sets a table before me in the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in her house forever.
forever and ever. Glory be to our Mother and Daughter and to the Holy of Holies, as it was in the beginning, is now and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Amen. The 23rd Psalm. It's my favorite version, I think. Of course, many of you are familiar with it, and I want to begin by saying that my favorite line in the 23rd Psalm is where it says, "You set a table before me in the presence of my enemies." In the song, it was the presence of my foes. In the Jewish Study Bible, it says, "You spread a table before me in full view of my enemies." And it gives me so much confidence when I imagine that, because here's the situation. More and more places in the world are engulfed in war and devastating attacks from all different sides, whether from the forces of power or from individuals with guns and bad intentions. We, Unitarian Universalists, we still believe in democratic engagement, but our context gets worse and worse, more and more scary, more and more treacherous every week, right? Every week we are feeling more endangered. And please vote in the state and local elections, of course. But I'm here to tell you, no matter what happens in the next election, we will still gather. And that table, that promise of the table, is still here. Here under this roof, here over the waves. The promise of a table is our promise. We trust that we will still find better ways to live and share, bring up children in health and hope, care for one another equitably, bridge the barriers of race and class and gender and sexuality and abilities of different kinds that have been turned into oppressions. That's where I want to begin, is that we believe in this table that we can share and we can mend and bridge and solve problems. And our table feeds us with a tasty and nourishing faith, even while we must battle against immediate and present dangers. I promised I would talk with you about evil and sin, and I do so with great trepidation. I was born and brought up Unitarian Universalist, and our litany was, every child is born one more Redeemer. We are products of a loving universe. If there are problems in the world, if neighbors are living in poverty, if governments are wreaking destruction and havoc, we can make things better, at least a little better. At least we can cook food and we can vote and get out the vote. We promote inclusive and justice-based and worldwide community. We connect with all of life in the interdependent web. If there are holes and tangles in that web, we want to mend them. It's not that evil and sin don't exist, but we concede they do, but we believe they can be solved. So I believed this until I began to encounter what seemed like hypocrisy in my former church. This is a story that happened to me almost 20 years ago now, and it was a hard, difficult experience that became part of my motivation for ministry and for chaplaincy. Part of what brought me here, right now. In any church, there has to strike a balance between boldness in representing our incarnational call, our faith in the wider world, and the degree of readiness among the people right here to connect that boldness to our own spiritual depth and our ability to relate to one another and love one another into action. I got out at the far limit of the boldness side, but I didn't have the spiritual depth, and especially I didn't have the relational capabilities, the communication skills that I needed. I was an up-and-coming lay leader. I did the best I could, but I couldn't stay tied to the end of that branch. If you think of the church and the faith as like a tree, and I was way out there in the wider world, but I fell off. I fell off into deep water. When I finally came up for air, I was far away from Unitarian Universalism. All those beliefs I described seemed so naive. I was so angry. True confession, I was so angry that I became judgmental about how we sang our hymns. I was always criticizing the way we sang, and in particular, I felt as a white UU that I and other white folks, we didn't have the right to sing the African American songs because we were superficial and we hadn't been through the fire that we needed to go through to have the right to sing those songs. And I was very judgmental about that. I felt like most of us were just off key. I was going through my own fire. I was lamenting, and maybe some of you have felt this way sometimes. Why is it that our high ideals have so little impact beyond ourselves? We talk the talk, but do we really walk the walk? Why is the whole so much less than the sum of its parts sometimes? And like I said, that was 20 years ago, and I was really angry. So a friend said, "You have to read this book." And I was enthralled by the title. It was called Moral Man and Immoral Society. And it turned out, about 90 or 100 years ago now, a liberal Christian theologian named Reinhold Niebuhr was even madder than I was. He was so mad, he wrote this whole book railing against the naivete of the liberal social gospel movement, thinking we were saving the world, and Unitarians and Universalists were deep into the social gospel movement and trying and believing we could save the world. And the Unitarian leaders in particular, some of them, not all of them, hated Reinhold Niebuhr, and they were publishing documents against him. And that, of course, made me even more enthralled. To give you a bigger picture of who this theologian Niebuhr was, he is now also credited with the Serenity Prayer. The courage to change the things we can, the serenity to accept the things we can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. But at that time, that scholarship hadn't been done. I certainly didn't know that. He voiced two other important ideas that have stuck with me all this time, and that I continued to explore in theological school. But I have to say, I'm not a Niebuhr scholar, and I never adopted his Orthodox Christianity. So this is an interpretation, and if you're a Niebuhr scholar, I would love to talk with you more. But these two ideas helped me a lot. So the first, because I think these ideas can help all of us as we discern how to move through the world in these treacherous times. The first idea is the will to power. Now, I'm not talking about power as anything bad or negative. Power is the ability to act, the ability to influence our world, our environment. Child psychologists have the term mastery, like a child is absolutely bound and determined when they're an infant to learn to walk. They are driven to it. And that's the same root of our will to power. It's innate and natural. It leads us to believe we can do things, we keep trying, we can cooperate with one another, and we can be forces for good in the world. Exercising our healthy will to power has even been known to cure people or heal people from depression, because it brings hopefulness and joy and a sense of capability. But let me tell you, it can also be like a drug. It can make us euphoric and overconfident. It can make us feel entitled. It can give us selective hearing, so we miss moderating voices. There was some politician last week saying something like, everyone has a tendency to rationalize what's in their self-interest, and that's the sort of the mini version. But it gets worse in groups because we reiterate our good words and our good teachings, and they start to sound real, whether or not we are actually accountable. And we start to think they're inevitable, but we have to ask, in a pragmatic way, how are we living these? How are we embodying these pragmatically and accountably? So that's the first, the will to power. The second idea is the dialectic of sin. Now, a dialectic is two opposite ideas, right? And these are two reactions that are both problematic to the reality of this double-edged power. First, we embrace power because we know we are good. That's the first idea. We know we are good. If we work hard and correct our mistakes and keep trying, a benevolent universe will win. We have faith. So the second reaction is cynical, nihilistic. We are already doomed by our human fallibility. Our ambitions and our missteps will always lead us astray. So we are safer if we just stay back. At least then we won't be punished, we won't hurt other people, and we won't cause more harm. Now, by sinful, what I mean is separated from what we believe in as holy, separated and broken away from the meaning and purpose that we truly, honestly seek in our spiritual lives. So both of these ideas, the first one is reckless and naive. It lets our egos rule. But the second one is fear-based, and it shrinks the power that we really do have. It takes us away from the courage to change the things we can and lets us off the hook. So ever since then, I've been struggling and working on this dilemma, right? The double-edged sword, the dilemma. And like I said, I never became an Orthodox Christian. I am still truly skeptical about many of the more conservative teachings, and I don't believe that Jesus is the same as God. But here are two Unitarian Universalist answers that I came up with. The first, and this is a word that has been brought out from the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., mutuality. When we exercise power, we can never see ourselves fully because we live inside our existential limitations, our psychology, and our social location. Our mirrors are warped, our blind spots can be very wide, but what we can do is notice our vantage point. We can notice how others see us and how we appear, and what is our relative power position in any given situation, because that can change. We can use that to build relationships that bridge gaps and see ourselves from different points of view. If we get out to the far edge of our comfort zone and reshape our patterns of interaction, it can be extremely humbling, but we get a lot wiser. So King's famous words, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. It's like we have to activate that network. We have to weave, and not in a paternalistic way, but in mutuality, we have to weave that shared garment of destiny. So that's the first remedy. The second remedy, the first remedy, very carefully, we are going to be powerful, but we must be very careful about it and humble about it. The second remedy is the correction to the escapist and avoidant side might look a little like the escapist avoidant side, but it's not. We have to just stop sometimes. Without navel-gazing, without hiding, just drop everything. So there's a social media feed called the UU Hysterical Society. Has somebody seen that? And it had this post to the effect of, I don't know why my health insurance doesn't pay for my chickens, because every time I hug my chickens, my blood pressure drops. Well, maybe it's your dog or your cat or your dear friend. For me, it's my worms. I have a worm bin, and please forgive me for saying this. I don't hug my worms, I dig them. I hate puns, but I couldn't resist. My worms are smart, they are peaceful, they wiggle around, they eat my food scraps, they take me to ground. So we have to wiggle around, we have to eat candy, play, hug a tree, wear silly costumes, take a real vacation. It doesn't have to be a fancy vacation, just a real rest. Sing, dance, enjoy life, and go to ground. Be like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven, as my Christian friends say. Or as the Zen teachers say, beginner's mind. Cultivate beginner's mind. Drop the stories, dwell in the moment. Practice peace. So this is a quote from a Buddhist teacher I recently discovered, Norma Ryuko Wong Roshi. And Wong Roshi says, if we are to go to ground, let it not be to hide. What use are we to ourselves, our people, our world, if we are to curl up in a ball and while our time away, fingers in our ears, pretending that this too shall pass? If we are to go to ground, let it be to reach into the fertile soil, to drink the waters of renewal, to acknowledge the sun within us, this light. So in the words of the song that we are about to sing, and you are welcome to start playing it so we can start to hear it, let us lay down our burden. Lay down our burden down by the riverside. Study war no more. So please rise in spirit and sing together as you are able. Sing together wholeheartedly. Sing together hymn number 162. Has everybody found it? The actual first line is going to lay down my sword and shield in this version.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. Gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. Gonna study war no more. I ain't 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 gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna shake hands around the world, everywhere I roam, everywhere I roam, everywhere I roam. Gonna shake hands around the world, everywhere I roam. Gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.
say together, we extinguish
this flame,
but
not the light of truth,
the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And a huge thank you to everyone for being here, to the speakers, to Phyllis and Kathy, to our musicians, our sound and tech experts, all the staff and all the volunteers, which are all many, many of you. And I have to tell you one more thing. I have another favorite theologian, Howard Thurman, who was a mentor to many of the leaders of the civil rights movement, including Dr. King, but he was not known as an activist, and it would drive the activists crazy because he was known as a mystic. You would not find him on a picket line, but over and over he challenged people to strike the balance between action and being grounded. He was sure that that right balance would meet that particular historical moment with transformative truth. And so the words that I found in his writings were, we must face the divine scrutiny. So that is my answer for evil and sin, is that I invite you to take with you. Face the divine scrutiny as we follow in the way everlasting. Amen.